Hello, everyone. Welcome to my second edition of Purpose Amplified, a live stream broadcast with the purpose of featuring impact driven and purpose driven ventures and individuals who are making an impact on their local and global communities. And the reason I wanted to start this live stream was because for a while now, I felt like I needed to have a bigger purpose than just helping others market, right? And so I came across purpose driven ventures when I was working with Houston Impact Hub and was very lucky to meet a lot of great, amazing, wonderful social entrepreneurs and individuals really truly working to make an impact on our world. And so fast forward a couple of years later, I wanted to share this platform, use my voice to feature these individuals and organizations so that in the hopes of helping them find customers, stakeholders, etc., that's needed for their ventures to continue to thrive and grow. And this month's guest, because Earth Day is this month, is Maria Burgos, founder of Trendy Seconds. I thought she would be the perfect guest to have this on this month because we're focusing on responsible consumerism and sustainability. And these are bigger issues than just simply recycling. So we'll share more about that in my conversation with Maria. Before we get started and I bring Maria on, I'm going to share a little bit of background about Maria. As I mentioned, she is the founder of Trendy Seconds, a company helping women easily become responsible fashion consumers. Over the past 20 years, Maria has started 3 companies and held corporate positions focused on sales and marketing, always aligned with her passion for helping others. Living in 4 different countries and experiencing diverse cultures made her understand that we all have more similarities than differences, regardless of our origin. And having worked with different industries in difficult economic environments, both on a corporate and an entrepreneurial level, has given her expertise in problem solving with a creative approach. She was raised in Venezuela, a country where political and economical crises were the norm. Maria has learned to create her own opportunities while developing the resilience to keep moving forward. And today, Maria deeply believes in the interconnection of people, regardless of the place where they live, because in the end, we're all sharing this planet as our common home. And she's an advocate of second chances. And she was able to talk this past fall during her TEDx Countdown talk in Houston. And we'll hear a little more about that as well during our conversation and when you can see her TEDx talk. Hopefully we have a date soon. Without further ado, I'm bringing Maria on. Hello, Maria. Welcome.
Hi, Anne. Thank you for having me. How are you?
I'm good. I'm so glad to have you. I appreciate it so much. And if you all are tuning in on LinkedIn, please feel free to drop a comment and say hello and where you're tuning in from. In fact, we've got a guest that says, what a great choice for Earth Day, right? So Maria, you and I met a couple of years ago because of Impact Hub Houston. I call it Houston Impact Hub. And shout out to Impact Hub Houston. I'll share a little bit more information about them as well. If you are a social entrepreneur or purpose-driven venture and need some help with resources, coaching, etc., Impact Hub Houston is the place to go. And so I connected with you through them. And your story was so amazing. I was like, okay, this is one woman I need to stay in touch with and connected with because you are a powerhouse. You're a female founder, first off, and you're Latina, right? And do you happen to know the stats of female founders compared to, of course, male founders, and then being Latina yourself too? Would you share that information if you haven't? If not, I'll look it up.
When I started, I didn't know about that. I started this venture out of my own need after organizing my closet in 2020 in the middle of the pandemic and finding out that, making more responsible choices for my wardrobe was really hard to do. So I just wanted to create a solution for that. I had no idea. And I think that's part of probably not being raised here, constantly listen to these statistics. So I just said, I will go for it. And now I know, I don't know the number, but I know that it's really low. So if you take into account, female founder, immigrant, Latina, mom, then you have all of these boxes that kind of reduce, your chances, basically. But I just didn't know about that, and I just try to focus on moving forward and try to make this venture work.
I feel like not having that information and knowing what the challenges you face really help you just to go for it too, right? You're not sitting there doubting yourself going, oh, I there's so few of us, I can't possibly do this. And so I think, there's a little bit of blissfulness in not having that information as well. You mentioned during the pandemic, you started organizing like so many of us, right? We were Marie Kondo fans and we wanted
Exactly.
to spend that time organizing our closets and things like that. And that led you to think, how could I be a more responsible consumer? Would you share a little bit more about that?
Yes. So I organized my closet. And at that point, I had been living in the United States only for a couple of years. So it was truly the first time that I was doing like a deep cleaning of my clothes. And I wanted to learn where I could take it. And I started just a Google research. And within that research, I was just shocked with the levels of consumption and waste that are generated through clothes, especially in countries like this one. Once again, my perspective coming from another place is very, very different. And I just, was fascinated, not in a good way, with that. And I decided to donate that clothes to a local church that I knew that they were going to use it. I didn't just want to throw them in a bin at the street. I didn't know what was going to happen with that. And after that, I kept researching and learning how I could reduce my impact through my wardrobe. And then that's what, when I realized that, okay, I could buy maybe secondhand clothes, and I tried to do that, but it was so hard that I didn't want to spend my time just hours browsing, right? And then I understood, like, well, what happens if I want to buy something new that's more sustainably made? And then I got into a rabbit hole, understanding what sustainability meant for a garment. I said, this is too hard. We need to make this 10x, 20x easier so more people can do it, because we really need to transition towards a more responsible and sustainable way of living.
Yeah, absolutely. And I agree with you. I think if we make it easier for people, it becomes part of their mindset and the way we live, not just like the buzzwords of sustainability and being a conscious consumer. And I love that. And you shared some stats with me previously about how many gallons of water it takes to make one t-shirt.
So for a cotton t-shirt, it takes 700 gallons of water just for the process of harvesting the cotton alone. That's not for the manufacturing process. And, over the last 15 years, we have duplicated the amount of items on our closets, and we are using them less than ever. On average, we're only using a piece of clothes 7 times before we get rid of it. And what happens is that most of the clothes, even donations to Goodwill and these big organizations, end up, sadly, in the global south, in some landfill, being burned or decomposing for decades, hundreds of years. And what happens with that is that pollution that comes out of this comes back to the soil of the people that surround these lands, and also contributes to accelerate climate change. So eventually it comes back to us no matter where we are. That's why I think that even though we are not seeing this type of things happening, we are definitely living the consequences without being aware of what might be causing them. And it's just our behavior.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think about when you throw something in the garbage, you just don't think what happens to it afterwards, right? And if we are able to see that whole life cycle, hopefully we would make better choices or different choices. But that blew my mind when you shared that statistic about 700 gallons of water. And that's just in harvesting the cotton, as you said, for one t-shirt. How many t-shirts do we purchase, right? And we're talking about cotton garments. And we say t-shirts, but anything that's 100% cotton garment could fall in that category, right?
Yes, even jeans is worse. I mean, every piece of garment that you can think of has a really complex process behind. So for that garment to come to our closets, it has a very long path that, people behind it, workers, garment workers being paid, natural resources. And that's one of the things that, as I think as humans, we learn as we go. And specifically on the fashion industry, one thing that needs to be tackled is the business model, because it relies on a linear consumption, which means take, make, dispose. And that has an assumption behind that the natural resources are infinite, because they rely on volume growth every year in order to keep progressing. So I think we are living now in a very interesting era where we have the challenge to figure out how can these businesses monetize differently without relying only on the production of new garments. And this is where the circular mentality comes in. What if, these brands understand that if they manufacture better quality items, they can monetize one garment several times over and over again, because they will last for a long time. And then people can start looking at clothes not just as a disposable thing that is very trendy this week on TikTok and that's it, but actually as a valuable item that can last generations and that has a lot of resources into it, regardless of the price tag that we paid with our money.
Mm-hmm. So yeah, for a while there was this, I guess, popular term, or the popularity of fast fashion, right? And I think that's really fashion that you could just wear a couple times. It's cheap enough, and then you could throw away without regard, because it was so cheap and probably cheaply made as well. And so, how would we fight something like that, right? And so that people become more aware. And you mentioned it yourself, we have to think about the whole process from the designer to the manufacturer. How do we help those folks to create the sustainable clothing that we can then, turn around and share with others in a circular fashion?
So what I find fascinating about this, with my own personal journey as a founder and as a consumer, is that sustainability is not just about a decision of purchasing something specifically, but about a mindset of multiple small choices that we do throughout the life cycle, in this case of our clothes. So for example, first step is to figure out if you really need to buy this new thing. And if the answer is yes, ask yourself, am I going to wear it at least 30 times? If the answer is yes, then okay, you can go, like, best case scenario, you can go and find something secondhand, because that way you will be preventing these companies to keep producing in such great scales. You will be purchasing something that someone else owned previously. You can buy something that is upcycled. Or if you don't find something there, then look for more ethical and sustainable choices. And when you are in that process of making the decision, it's actually better to look for better quality items, because they will last for longer. Yeah. So if you divide the amount of times that you are going to wear that item, between the price that you're paying, then the cost per wear comes down, which is something that we don't pay attention to, right? So there are many different avenues that you can take to start being a more responsible consumer. And it's not just one size fits all. Mm-hmm. I think it's more like a toolbox that you have, and then you use different tools in different moments. For example, if you have a really big party and you don't have anything to wear, like so fancy, you can rent a dress and then turn it back in. So, the thing is creating awareness about these little things and take one step at a time.
I love that, because you want to meet people where they are, right? Because if we're sitting here preaching about sustainability and continuously not giving people steps on how to do so, they may feel overwhelmed or think, I don't want to listen to this, and so I love that you've used that term toolbox. It's not a one size fits all, as you mentioned. You make the changes where you can in your life, and go from there. Because I think if a million of us make these small steps, it adds up and does make an impact. One of the things that you mentioned was starting with the designers and manufacturers and really looking for those who are using sustainable practices, who have a mission for sustainability. And how would a regular consumer find uh, clothing companies like that without going down that rabbit hole of the internet research?
That's what we are trying to do at Trendy Seconds. So we actually we make this simpler for consumers. So we, on the one hand, curate secondhand garments from multiple secondhand marketplaces, and on the other hand, we curate pre-vetted sustainable brands and put them all in one place, so people can have the confidence of knowing that everything that you can find through Trendy Seconds is more sustainable one way or the other. And the way that we pre-vet these merchants, because sustainability is not perfect, and because it does not have a formula that you can follow, is that we guide ourselves with 4 of the United Nations sustainability goals. And these brands need to drive their businesses at least with one of these goals very strongly. So it's not just about creating one conscious collection. It's actually at the heart and soul of the company to create a positive impact with what they are producing.
Yeah, absolutely. I love that. You're putting your money where your mouth is, and really making sure that these companies you're working with align with what your purpose and your mission is as well. One of the things that you mentioned also, and I wanted to talk about because I was like, oh man, I'm not in Houston to see this great event. You hosted with some other organizations a sustainability event this past weekend, and it was a clothing swap, right? So how did that go? And how would we find out more information about that for future events?
Yes, that was amazing. This was the first clothing swap party organized by a new initiative that we are leading along with 3 other sustainable fashion companies in Houston. That's called Houston Sustainability. What we want to start doing is create awareness about the sustainability that we need to transition towards a more responsible way of living. And we joined forces to create this first event. The intention was for people to come, have fun, bring up to 10 pieces of garments that they didn't want on their closets for one way or another, that were in great condition. And then you could take home up to 10 pieces as well. It was completely free. It was in a very cool local bar, and we had over 100 people showing up, getting to connect with us. It was an incredible experience. We swapped over 500 garments, and we are talking about, we have gotten a couple of invitations to host more parties in other venues. So we are really excited about what's coming, and who knows what this might become. But the intention is to create awareness in the local community so they can too start making more responsible choices while having fun. And they can also know about these initiatives that are tackling sustainability in fashion here in Houston.
I love it. That sounds wonderful, right? To have 100 people, and it's your first event. I think that's a pretty successful, first go at it. And so glad to hear that there will be future events. And I think if people sign up for your newsletter through your website,
yes, you can come to follow us on Instagram, trendy.seconds. If you go to trendyseconds.com and subscribe to our newsletter, you will get information about these future events as well.
Yeah, it's very easy to find them on social media, Trendy Seconds, on Instagram, on Facebook, all across the different channels. And I love following you on Instagram because you've got some cool posts and things. But absolutely, definitely go to the website trendyseconds.com because you can check out the clothing that are available to purchase and then sign up, as Maria mentioned, for her newsletter as well to keep up with events. Simi attended your event.
Yes, hey Simi.
Y'all may need to open a brick and mortar.
Yes,
there you go.
You're right about that.
That may be a future goal for Trendy Seconds, an actual brick and mortar store.
Who knows? Yeah.
So your big purpose came out of a a challenge, if you will, that you came across during the pandemic. And I found that so many of ventures like this and purpose-driven ventures were founded for the same reason. There was a problem that you came across personally and you couldn't find an answer for it anywhere. And so you said, you know what, I'm going to create the answer for it. And I love that, because you wanted to make that impact and you created the answer for that problem. And I'm sure that there's so many people out there like that as well, going, what do I do with all this clothing? Because I speaking for myself, I think about it too. When I start trying to put it in the trash can, I'm like, okay, what can I do with this? Can this become like a cloth to shine my car or something?
Right.
That I can't wear it anymore, and it's certainly not in great condition to give it to someone else. But what else can I do with this? So I love that. And the rise of the rental companies for clothing, that's amazing too. And I've had friends who've rented from, I think, Runway Rental or something
Mm-hmm.
similar to that. And they, for special occasions, like you said, because how many times have we bought a dress for a special occasion, and when would we wear it again? And how
Yes.
often would we wear it again?
It's funny because I remember back in my country, this is a very usual practice, but for men.
Oh, really?
But for men, yes, not women. Women, it's like, no, I will just buy my own dress. But then I said, why? Like, I don't understand. Why is this a gender thing? Like, it makes no sense to buy something, because that's another thing that if it comes into consideration when talking about why we feel the need to consume so much, and it's the shaming of the outfit repeating. That's another thing that we are trying to communicate. Like, yes, of course we repeat outfits. We have washing machines at home. We buy this because we want to wear it multiple times. And that's part of the problem, actually, because all of these companies, fast fashion, ultra fast fashion, had made trends that on their own, they're not bad. But the thing is that they are shorter and shorter in time. And they make this marketing campaigns where they want to make us feel like out of out of context. We're not trendy enough because we don't have the latest and greatest, and it's just because they need to constantly sell new stuff.
Exactly.
So the outfit repeating, there's this hashtag that's called proud outfit repeating and Instagram, that it's very popular right now.
I'm gonna after we're done with the show, I'm gonna go look for this hashtag on Instagram. I love it, and that's a really interesting point you bring up. That it was very irrelevant or prevalent practice for men, but for women, you're right. It's a cultural thing, right? We women are like, oh no, we've got to have a new outfit. But why do we think like that? Because we've been so ingrained by marketing from fashion houses and other companies. And so how do we help to change that cultural mindset as well?
Yes, it's interesting what's happening even in red carpets. Recently, we had the Academy Awards, and there were a couple of celebrities there advocating for this, that are actually re-wearing dresses that they wore for another premiere years ago to make a statement out of this. So I think it's a problem that needs to be addressed from many multiple angles, but it needs to start, or it needs to be replicated by consumers as well, because there's like a shaming thing, like, oh, you don't have maybe enough to buy another dress or whatever. And it's like, we should move away from that. And in my opinion, just you can make great different outlooks with accessories with the same dress. I mean, it's just about being creative and just understanding that what we are wearing has a higher cost than just a price tag.
Yeah, absolutely. It does have a larger cost, absolutely, than just what you've paid out of your pocketbook, right? So let's talk a little bit about your entrepreneurial journey, because I know that in our audience there are probably other female founders or women who have an idea and who are like, how do I even begin and where do I go? So you have this idea during the pandemic, and then what happened? I mean, you have a background of starting companies, so you had that leg up and knowing where to go. But if I were a brand new founder and didn't know where to go, how would I start?
Well, I started two companies back in my country. There were not startups, and I had no network here. So I was absolutely new to this. So I would tell everyone to be curious and go to your laptops or cell phones and Google. That was literally how everything started. I was looking for a solution like this online and I didn't found it. And then after that, I literally went to Google and say, okay, how to start a business, in Houston. And eventually I came across acceleration programs with, which at the time I had no idea what they did. I had no idea what was the difference between a business and a startup. And I came across this one from Founder Institute here in Houston. They were receiving applications. And even though I don't have a technical background, I decided to go for it. And I applied, I graduated from there, and it kind of took off. After that, I, started to build my network. I met the people from Impact Hub Houston, which have been really amazing and supportive. I went through their program as well, where I met you. And then it's kind of like this networking effect, right? Where you go and meet people. But today, this was before ChatGPT. So it's like back in the old days when you had just Google, right? But today you have the information in your hands. It's about what you are going to do with it.
Yeah.
If you want to take action, you can. And you have so many resources here. So it's just a matter of making the decision.
I like that. If you want to make an impact, you want to just go for it, right? Because there are many resources out there, and it's a matter of finding it. And hopefully, shows like this one will share with founders where to go to look for resources. And you mentioned Founder Institute, and I wanted to share it's fi.co if anybody's interested in the website, and I'll add it in the comments here afterwards as well. And those are great resources because not only are you connecting with other founders like yourself, but you're connecting with experienced founders who are helping you through the process, because there's so many things as a company founder you may not even think about, right? So, like, what have you learned over the past couple of years since you founded your company, and what are probably 3 huge takeaways that you would share with someone who is a brand new founder?
Well, again, be curious. You can start building your network and just getting out there. You have a lot of other organizations like the Ion. Perlan also has a new hub.
Yes.
Launchpad, a lot of things. So you can go at these free events, go and subscribe to their newsletter to see what's going on and get to connect with people there. That would be number 1. And number 2, learn a lot. I think it's key for every founder. At least I think that we need to fall in love with learning, because that's what we do every day. We are solving problems, we are learning, and we are correcting things to make them better the next time. So don't wait for some guru to come your way and teach you all of these things. Go yourself and find out, if you have an idea, how can you make this work? How can you create it simply with no-code tools? Today, we have so many options. It's about really the passion behind the drive that is moving you, your big why, and finding those resources that are here. And with internet, it's just up to you, to be honest. I think I just have to curiosity and learn.
Absolutely. Well, one of the kind of recurring themes I see is education. You've mentioned learning. You weren't sure where to go, and so you educated yourself and you went and learned. And like you said, there's a huge rabbit hole called the internet that you can go find. And if you're a founder, you can search for accelerators, right, or innovator hubs, and those are some of the terms that will help you find the right organization for you. And I'm really excited that in this day and age, there are many to choose from. I say many, but more than just one, because in the past it was difficult for founders to find these resources, but now there are options and opportunities. And so then as a founder, you can find the right community for you.
Exactly.
And then hopefully help you thrive as well.
And it can be many communities, You can have several niches, because if you're in tech, that's one. If you're in impact, that's another one. If you're maybe a Latino, there are other. So it's really, and I'm learning that still, like I've been here for almost 5 years, and I'm still learning the different communities within the community where you can reach out and connect, because everyone really wants to help, and that's amazing.
It is. There's help out there, and as you mentioned, there are many communities, and don't feel like you're tied to one. And you can find the one that fits for you. Before I'll go back to Impact Hub Houston again. You were part of a female founders cohort that was supported by Impact Hub Houston, and so that was in itself a community of where you learned with other female founders too. So that's one great resource. There's just so many, and really it's all about, as you said, finding that big purpose, finding your why, and educating yourself on what you need to do to make it a dream come true, right? It's a dream, but you can absolutely make it come true. Another one of your dreams, I think, was being a TEDx speaker, right? Having a
Well,
TEDx talk.
yes, I mean, it felt so far away that I didn't even have it like a dream of mine, but I had that amazing opportunity last year, and that I got to tell this beautiful story for me about my dad. It turned out to be really personal, which I wasn't expecting at all. It's about second chances, and I talk about how that relates to the circular economy and how everything that we learn never really goes to waste. So that talk should come up soon. I don't know when. The production team is still making some arrangements, but I mean, I think it's going to be up online on the next month or so. So that was amazing. We'll see where that goes. But having the opportunity to be there was, I'm still probably, I don't believe it because I haven't seen it. So it's like, yes, I know that I did this thing, but it's kind of like not too real yet. But, that's one of the examples of the opportunities that you might get if you show up, if you really are working hard to get your message out there. Because what I'm doing is not just, founding a company. I have this urge to get the message out and, create this multiplying effect. Going back, for example, to the swapping party, there are a couple of friends of mine that don't live here. They are in different countries. They don't know each other. And then by just seeing the post about this initiative, they felt inspired. And I'm talking about people that have very different personalities. I wouldn't consider them necessarily my target audience, but they felt that this was such a good initiative that they are, as we speak, coordinating their first swapping parties in Santiago de Chile and in Panama City. And this is just amazing for me to see, because it was like unintended consequence of just people watching what you're doing and kind of like getting the spark to start their own things.
I'm so glad you brought that up, that by people seeing your post and your information, they were inspired to follow suit. And that's one of the reasons I wanted to have this show, to feature founders like you and purpose-driven ventures and individuals, because that might inspire somebody, right? That might spark a movement. And it's all about simply awareness and education. As you've been saying, it's a recurring theme. It's just educating people, helping them learn, staying curious, and awareness of a problem or a challenge, and awareness of how to solve it. And if there isn't some way to solve it, possibly create your own solution for it as well, right? So I really appreciate what you said as well about, it's not just founding a company, but you want to be able to really continue to help spark a movement, if you will, and then help to achieve those sustainable development goals that the UN has set out for us. So I love it. I love this conversation, and I could continue to talk to you forever, right? But how would someone who has clothing that they want to then perhaps post on Trendy Seconds, how would they be able to do that? I know you work through some different distribution channels.
Yeah, so we don't handle inventory ourselves, but we partner with marketplaces that do. So reach out if you have some clothes that you are trying to resell, and I will see which option is best for your specific case.
Awesome. I know there's some great items. I was like looking.
Thank you. We try.
And there's some great designer names on there too. So, and I guess that brings me back to the other question. Is it only designer clothing that people can bring in, or just something that's in great shape that they no longer want to wear or no longer want to have in their closet?
So the partners that we have right now for secondhand clothes tend to have on their inventories more like middle to higher end. And it's because of the margins of this reprocessing of the products. But definitely you have options out there that accept everything. So that's why I love to help people figure out this depending on the type of clothes that they have. So you can resell them in many different platforms. And depending on the time that you have or you want to invest on, you can do it either yourself, or you can even find services that will help you with this. So I would be happy to help there.
That's awesome. Thank you very much. And if you're not connected with Maria, I will absolutely put the link for her LinkedIn profile in the comments as well after this show. But be sure to check out Trendy Seconds on Instagram. And then, of course, their website, trendyseconds.com, where you can also sign up and subscribe for the newsletter. And I imagine be able to connect with you as well there, too, through some the contact form if they have any questions about clothing or different channels for getting their clothing, too. And then I wanted to give another shout out to Impact Hub Houston. It's been has been a big, huge part of my life for the last couple of years, and has helped me to connect with wonderful people like yourself. And again, if you are a social entrepreneur, whether you're in the ideation stage to whatever stage you are in for funding and whatnot, Impact Hub Houston can definitely help you. And speaking of funding, really quickly, I forgot to ask you about that, right? Are you what's your focus right now? You mentioned customer acquisition.
Yes.
Are we on the lookout for stakeholders and venture capitalists?
We are in the lookout of funding, yes. Not on an official role right now. I'm not currently fundraising, but I'm applying to grants and other non-dilutive forms of funding. I want to give myself more chance to keep getting traction and learning from this. As at this point, I'm bootstrapping, but definitely if there's anyone out there, angels, I'm completely open to have conversations and just, have amazing people jump into this and help me create the impact that this venture really has.
Yeah, I love it. So you heard it right here. If you are a venture capitalist or an angel investor, Maria is happy to have a conversation with her, because we want to help you continue to broaden your impact in our world. So Maria, thank you so much for being on today. I really appreciate your time, and I love your story, and I'm so happy to be able to share it.
Thank you so much. And it's a pleasure. I mean, again, shout out to Impact Hub for bringing people together and make this type of connections. I truly appreciate your time. I love what you're doing, and please keep it up, because we need more people like you.
Oh, thank you. I appreciate that. And tune in next month for my guest, Loida Casares, who is the founder of Little Libraries and Laundromats. Say that 3 times fast. Loida is a former colleague of mine from the Houston Chronicle, and she found a need and wanted to be able to give access to books and help children to read and have access to books to read in communities that are underserved. So tune in next month for Loida Casares. And stay tuned on my LinkedIn profile, and I'll share all the information about when that show will be. Thanks again, everyone, for tuning in. Be sure to connect with Maria, and I'll see you soon.
Bye.